A little bit about PR. So, Porsesh Policy Research Institute is an independent, nonprofit, community centered policy think tank that began in 2015 in Kabul, Afghanistan. PR was founded to produce high quality, evidence based studies that combine community perspectives and rigorous scientific inquiry to inform constructive policies and solutions. We are an institution that has extensively studied marginalized communities, women, and civil society in Afghanistan through partnerships with organizations such as USAID, Counterpart International, and Open Society Foundations. Following the fall of Kabul, PR, like many academic institutions, was forced to flee the country. But we have reestablished operations as a US based our NGO, conducting new research here in the US, as this study is, as well as in South Asia and the Middle East. The through line of all PR research is our commitment to applying an impartial, human centered design approach while focusing on the experience of marginalized voices. This includes women, BIPOC groups, religious minorities, and LGBTQ plus individuals, who are all groups that are overlooked in this type of research quite often. Lastly, we make it essential to consider how our data is used and disseminated. So one of our big values at PR is that we like to post everything through Creative Commons license. So we're going to be publishing our data set and a couple of pieces of research tomorrow at 9 a.m. and it is free for use, however you find that useful. So I am going to start by introducing our wonderful researchers. So Dr. Hassan Javed is one of PR's board of directors and lead researchers supporting immigrants and refugees in their resettlement journeys. As an immigrant himself, he empathizes with their challenges, focusing on immigration, integration, identity, and culture. Javed holds a PhD and a master's in economics funded by Japan's Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. Previously, he served as a cultural advisor in the U.S. Embassy in Kabul and worked as Deputy Field Program Officer with USAID in Afghanistan for 3 years. Motivated by social justice, Javed envisions a fair society where all individuals lead fulfilling lives, especially those facing discrimination and limited opportunities. Next, Fahim Ahmad Yousafzai is an experienced researcher and data analyst with a master in arts in economics and currently studying computer and data science at MIT. His career spans impactful roles at institutions such as the Asia Foundation, Afghan Women's Network, Assess, Transform, and Reach Consulting, and the Institute of War and Peace Studies, where he has led and contributed to numerous national and subnational research publications on topics such as peace, women's rights, and the socio-political dynamics of Afghanistan. Polina Naumova is one of our PR's volunteer scholars, one of two. She is currently working on her MPH at the University of Washington. That's where I got my MPH, studying community-oriented public health practice. She received her Master's of Social Work from Michigan State University, focused on macro social work, community organization, and advocacy. Polina also works at the Michigan Public Health Institute as the Center for Social Change, focusing on evaluation, mixed methods research, and policy efforts. And lastly, Lili Aslami is another one of PR's volunteer scholars. Lili is in her second year of her Master's of Public Health Genetics program at the University of Washington, studying genetics in autism spectrum disorder. She is currently working with the Seattle Children's Autism Center, conducting her thesis, and as an Afghan American woman herself, she is honored to contribute to the project, bringing awareness to the many complex issues Afghan immigrants face. So, after those wonderful introductions, I am going to kick it over to Dr. Javed, who's going to share his screen and get started reviewing our research. Thank you so much. And I'll just make sure you unmute yourself, Javed.
Do you have my screen now?
Yep, we all see it great.
All right, we did the introduction. Thank you very much, James. My name is Hassan Javid, and I'm going to start with the introduction to the research. Uh, this research is about immigration, especially about the Afghan immigrants in Washington State. And as you all know, immigration, it has been a constant throughout human history. And there are many reasons for immigration, such as economic adversity, geopolitical conflicts, going after opportunities, or escaping persecution. And Afghanistan is no stranger, no exception to the idea or to immigration, as Afghanistan has a long history or a century-long history of persecution, migration, forced displacement, and which has created a large diaspora of Afghans across the world. And the recent mass exodus that happened after the fall of Kabul in 2021, in August 2021, a massive number of Afghans left the country, and a big number of those came to the United States, overwhelming the resettlement agencies or resettlement capacity of the U.S. And from that, Washington State received a big number. In early days, I was following the numbers. It was between 4,000, 5,000 people. But I think that changed later as more people came in, and also some people moved to another states. And to do a study of this immigrant groups, we designed a survey to study these people, to do an inside look into the resettlement of the Afghans as it happens. So we are in the community, and I myself come from that community. So we designed this survey and to study the resettlement issues, and also to do with their integration into the community. The primary question that we have in this survey: do Afghan immigrants experience resettlement, navigate the services and the system, and also integrate into the society? That was our main question. The data that we collected is from 197 families. We were hoping to get bigger numbers or interview more, more people uh, respond the that we had designed. But we were able to get we were hoping to get a minimum of 200, a bit more than 200 after the data cleaning. The final number that we have for the number of surveyed individuals is 197 people. And the survey, the whole idea started in February of 2021. So it's almost a year, a bit more than a year that we've been doing this study, the whole team. And the survey was conducted in 2023. Afghanistan's history of immigration is very long history, and it's very diverse. With this study, we're hoping to give some context to that to understanding of the immigration from Afghanistan, especially the contemporary immigration, because it has its own unique challenges. It's a bit different from other countries and also from other times in history. With this research, we're hoping to add or contribute to the existing literature on immigration, and also uh, the the issue that comes with immigration, that is integration. That was our primary focus in the beginning, but as we will tell you later why we chose this survey and then what will be our next steps, and that includes our focus on integration issues. We will talk about that later. And this survey, because I belong to this community, I am inside the community, I'm a member of the community, we will give an insider look or an insider and first-hand account of immigration experience, the challenges that people face. This will help us get a rich, authentic, and contextualized presentation of the experience of immigration within Afghan community in Washington state. The survey that we designed in this study, it provides a rigorous analysis of resettlement experience through data collection, and it will help us in understand the challenges. We will highlight the challenges that this group of immigrants in Washington face, and that will help us identify key issues with their resettlement, and then therefore we can suggest informed decisions and policies, and also help in tailoring support for the community, and also help the integration process in the long run. Talking about the survey design, it took us some time to finalize this design, because there are so many issues that we wanted to include in the survey, but we also had limited budget and time, and also team. So given those constraints, we designed this Google Doc form based survey, which started with the consent form and a brief introduction about the survey and the study. The most important issues that we wanted to have in the survey include immigration. So it starts with immigration and demographics and the timing of immigration. When did these people come here to the United States, and the reasons for their immigration? Those were our first few questions. And moving on, we went to talk about their family members, how many people, their location and the situation, their housing arrangements, especially after arrival or upon arrival. And the services that they received, was it NGOs, volunteers, or the government organization, or community members, or family people within private networks? And these were some of the main questions that we had in mind in designing the survey. And also community support and social networking. That is going back to our topic of integration. So we kept coming back to that topic, because that was the main motive for conducting this study. We divided the survey into 6 broad categories, starting with demographics, employment, immigration, housing, health, and integration. In designing the questions of the survey, one strategy that we used was to include all the important issues about immigration and resettlement of the Afghan community, to get a fuller picture of what's happening and also do not leave any important issue out. And also by comparing the answers or the responses that we get from this community, so we could compare those responses. It was designed in such a way that we could detect the parts that are less reliable, or if there were conflicts, that we could go back and check with the respondents. So those were important designs that we incorporated into the survey, so that to help us get the most reliable and the truest representation of the situation in the community. And later we also work with the key informant interviews, mostly the head of the CBOs, the communities that we have been in contact with, to get their ideas and also have a fair and balanced representation of different ethnic groups in gender and education level, and people who came at different time, and also people holding different visas or immigration status. Those were key important key issues that we had in mind when designing the survey questionnaire. Now I'll give the mic to my colleague, Lady John, to do the literature review, and I'll be back towards the end of the interview, the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so this is our literature review slide, and I know there's a lot of information here, so I won't read through all of the points, but I can give you some of the biggest takeaways. So first, this Afghan immigrant population has grown rapidly since the 80s, mainly due to various conflicts and instability in Afghanistan. There was a major influx of over 86,000 people relocated to the US after the 2021 Taliban takeover. Looking at demographics, Afghans tend to skew younger compared to broader immigrant and US-born populations, and their marriage and citizenship rates are also higher than other immigrant groups. But similar to broader trends, around 25% of Afghan adults lack a high school diploma. In terms of integration, Afghan men have higher employment levels than US-born men, despite lower average of education levels. However, Afghan women have about 15% lower employment rate compared to US-born women. Afghans overall are more than twice as likely to live in poverty compared to other immigrants and US-born populations. But overall, this literature review highlights Afghan immigrants face a complex array of challenges across economic, health, and social domains. And their needs remain understudied, and more nuanced research can help provide effective support. I will hand it over to Fahim John to talk about the methodology and demographics.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Javijan and Laijan, for the very excellent introduction. I also welcome everyone who joined us today. My name is Fahim. Before going to the main analysis, I will quickly walk through to the methodology that we have used for this study, mainly focusing on how we reach to the participants and the quality measures we have undertook, and also a quick snapshot of the demographic profile of respondents. In terms of the overall survey design, a mixed method of data collection, both quantitative and qualitative, is used in this study, and the whole data collection took place in 3 different phases. And the reason behind this is that after each phases, we have adjusted the sampling and the methods that we reach out to the participants. In the first phase, we have interviewed 81 individuals, where only 20 females participated in the study. Secondly, in an attempt to increase the number of female participants, we surveyed 49 individuals, out of which more than 50% were females this time. And at this time, we have reviewed the data set again and realized that the data is more skewed towards Afghan migrants from one particular ethnic group. So we employed another very quick round of data collection to survey mainly participants from different ethnic groups in order to have a more representative sample. At the end, we have ended up with 205 respondents with a more diverse demographic profile, ensuring again the representativeness of the study. As Javijan mentioned, the questionnaire was developed as an online Google form, consists of 48 questions in 6 different distinct areas, but the average time that the respondents took to fill out the questionnaire was 30 minutes. We have also used different methods to reach out to the participants. In the first method, a questionnaire was sent out to the verified community members and requested a response directly from them. Secondly, we have identified places where Afghan migrants visit frequently, and then we meet with the community members in persons in many different locations, such as grocery stores, mosques, community events such as Eid, Friday prayers, and also culture and sport events. The third method included the resettlement agencies, where individuals who visited these agencies have been requested to fill out the questionnaire form. Additionally, as mentioned earlier, engagement with the community leaders and support of the Afghan community in Washington state, such as Hazara Community of Washington, Kabul Washington Association, Afghan American Community of Washington, played a very crucial role in reaching out a broader and diverse individual and participants for the study. Also, it is noteworthy to mention that according to the ethical standards during all phases of the data collection, the survey questionnaire incorporated a statement of consent outlining the purpose of the study and also assuring respondents of anonymity. No personal identifiable information such as name or address was collected. The only contact information that we have obtained to reach back respondents was their email address or phone numbers. And again, strictly because of the follow-up questions with the respondents. In the end, from the data set that we're going to publish publicly, we have removed this information as well to maintain full confidentiality. In terms of the quality control measures, although we have monitored the quality of data during the whole process of data collection, after the data collection, however, a comprehensive review and validation of process was undertaken, and we have developed multiple tests to implement to ensure the highest data quality. These tests are included duplicate tests, basically to ensure that respondents are interviewed only once and there is no such duplicate cases. And also logic tests were basically developed to examine the logical consistency of questions within each single case. An example of logic tests could be, for example, a participant reported 3 years since moving to the United States, but for example, 5 years living in the Washington state. Now, these two questions contradict with each other. We have developed 20 numbers of these type of logic tests and flagged the cases with lower quality. As a result of these logic tests, 8 cases were removed from the data and subsequently from the analysis. Next slide. Yeah, and as mentioned before, out of 205 respondents, we have excluded 8 cases due to the low level of quality, and we have ended up with 197 respondents from 27 different areas and cities in Washington state. And this graph basically demonstrates a geographical visualization of location of respondents. We are a larger circle represent a higher number of participants within a particular area or city. Next slide. In terms of demographic profile, it's noteworthy to mention that individuals who participated in this study have diverse background and are from different demographic profile, again emphasizing the representativeness of the study. Overall, 32% of respondents are females and 67% are males. And in terms of ethnicity, most of the participants are from Hazara ethnic group, which is 43%, followed by those from Pashtun ethnic group, 33%, and 21% from Tajik ethnic groups. The survey also includes 3% of participants from other ethnic groups, mainly from Uzbek, Sadat, Kazakh, and Bayat. In terms of education level, although majority of participants have some sort of education, including 27% school diploma and 52% university degree, this could be a bachelor degree, a master degree, or someone who is doing PhD. On the other side, however, 1 in every 5 participants reported having no formal education. In terms of age distribution, the average age of participants were 33 years old with a standard deviation of 7 years. This means that most of the survey participants are between 25 to 35 years old, with only few respondents above 50 years old. Next slide. Yeah, and I take over to Laili for afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we decided to pull some of the most important result graphs from our report. This first graph provided insights into the household composition and living arrangement of Afghan immigrants here in Washington State. So looking at the data, a majority of respondents, about 47 out of 197, live in a 3-person household consisting of couples with 1 child. This aligns with the demographic profile of many newcomers who are SIV recipients and tend to be younger with smaller families. Larger families of 5 to 8 members also represents a significant portion of the respondents, and it is common for Afghan families to share housing arrangements in their initial years to lower costs. Understanding the household dynamics is crucial for policymakers and community leaders to design programs and services targeted towards the needs of different household structures within the Afghan community. Next slide, please. So moving to employment, while 59% of respondents are satisfied with their current job, 64% acknowledge their work may not be fully utilizing their skills and background from back home in Afghanistan. About 20% expressed active dissatisfaction with their employment and a desire to find roles better suited to their expertise. 12% are also dissatisfied but unable to seek new jobs due to constraints. 15% are engaged in unskilled labor positions, not requiring licensing or education, and 4% have started their own small business here in areas like grocery stores and professional services. Also, reliance on gig economy platforms is also pronounced, with 15% working primarily for Uber, Lyft, and other similar apps, which provides income source and flexibility. Next slide, please. Finally, these results here on this slide are looking at how Afghan immigrant respondents, how long they have lived here in Washington State. So 58% have resided here for less than 5 years, and an additional 17% have resided here for between 5 to 10 years. 13% have been in the state for under 1 year, and 10% for less than 6 months. And only 2% have been here for over 10 years. This concentration of arrivals within the past decade is critical for policymakers to consider when allocating services and designing programs to support Afghan integration. I will hand it over to my colleague Paulina to go through the next couple sections.
Thank you, everybody. So section 4 through 6 surveyed respondents on housing, health, including mental health, and integration within the cultural aspect of life. So this first graph, as Layla stated, we pulled some of the graphs that we thought were most important, and this specific graph goes over civic and political participation within the United States. A significant 61% of the surveyed individuals are not citizens and are not eligible to vote. It is important to highlight that those who aren't able to participate in the electoral process, considering that the data from this graph is regarding current immigration status and the fact that the majority surveyed individuals are newcomers to the US and not yet citizens, it is unsurprising that 61% in this section mentioned their ineligibility to participate in elections. Approximately 44% of respondents affirm the significance of participation in elections and demographic processes, emphasizing the importance of public engagement for the vitality of democracy. Exploring the engagement beyond the ballot, Oh, sorry, first graph. Exploring the engagement beyond the ballot, the questionnaire inquired about direct communication with representatives in the US Congress. A modest 4% of the respondents reported contacting their representatives for assistance, while even a smaller fraction of 2% disclosed having met with their representatives at least once at the state or federal level. Lastly, 2% of the respondents chose not to respond to the survey question, underscoring the importance of considering non-response in the overall interpretation of civic and political participation data. Next slide. So in this particular graph, the questionnaire asked regarding health insurance. And so the predominantly finding is that 77% of respondents rely on government health insurance, primarily through programs such as Medicaid and Medicare. This underscores the substantial dependence on public health care initiatives within this demographic. Additionally, 17% of respondents reported obtaining health insurance through their employers, showcasing a segment of the community accessing coverage through workplace-based plans. A noteworthy 6% of the population participates in copay programs where individuals contribute a portion of their health insurance costs, with the remaining covered by their insurance plans. This illustrates a specific approach to managing healthcare expenses within the community. Next slide. So this is one of the last slides that we pulled from section 6 specifically on the health services utilization. So this graph provides a comprehensive view of survey results pertaining to the utilization of health services among the surveyed Afghan immigration population. The focus here shifts from the mere access to health care and insurance to the practical utilization of various health services, including having an assigned primary care provider, a PCP, a visiting family doctor, accessing dental services, and overcoming barriers to utilization. A notable 79% of respondents indicated that they, along with their family members, possess an assigned PCP or a family doctor, highlighting a substantial portion of the population with established healthcare connections. In contrast, 10% of respondents reported lacking an assigned PCP. When queried about their ability to visit a doctor when needed, 43% of respondents affirmed their capability to do so. However, 7% acknowledged challenges in accessing medical care, citing financial constraints, 2%, and lack of knowledge about how to access healthcare services, which was at 5%, as a limiting factor. Next slide. So due to time, budget, and constraints, we conducted a single analysis to discuss and compare community and social networking with education level. This is one example of how the data that we've worked on in this report can be utilized in future research and future comparisons. This specific graph, which will be available within the report tomorrow, goes over how education level impact immigrants, community, and social networking in the integration process. Participants with no formal education exhibiting the highest disparity between traditional and non-traditional event participation, with over 87% engaging in traditional events compared to only 20% in non-traditional events. I know it's a little bit hard to see. However, on the right-hand side, you're going to find more of the traditional activities, whereas on the left-hand side, there are going to be more of the American cultural, and the middle is kind of an integration between the two. In conclusion, the analysis underscores the significance of educational attainment in shaping social networking and participation patterns among Afghan immigrants. These insights are crucial for tailoring support programs and integration initiatives to address the diverse needs of the community. And I'll hand it over to Javed.
All right, thank you very much, Paulina. We're getting closer to the conclusion and findings and limitations of this study that I will briefly talk about it. If you are still with us, thank you very much for your participation and your time. In this conclusion, we found that there is a data gap in the literature, especially about the Afghan immigrants. Not only here because we did the literature review for Afghans across the globe, we found that there is a data gap. There is not many literature on the subject. And the data that we collected from this survey, it has huge potentials because the future studies can benefit a lot. This data for your information. It will be available and open to public on the website. And and another point about the in this study was that we wanted to have to identify limitations and where the services and resources fall short. So we could identify those and develop suggest those as policy points and policy recommendations for future, and also to increase awareness and consideration. So this data highlights the importance of considering the strengths and challenges of immigrant communities, and inform efforts to address those barriers of resettlement and integration. Limitations of the study, as the introduction went, I belong to a Hazara community member, and this may impact the result or the participation of the respondents and the result of the study. So this is one of the limitations. The second limitations for the survey is that the challenges of reliability, respondents' comfort, and confidentiality and potential bias in the survey. So we identified these limitations. And the third limitation of the study is timing of the report or timing of reporting. Reporting varies based on resettlement stages. So most of the respondents that we interviewed and sent questionnaires to were the ones who came in the last 10 to 20 years, mostly predominantly in the last 3-4 years. And their experience of resettlement may be very different for people who came earlier than that. And if we go back to this community in 10 years, for example, their story, their experience, and their success in the United States will be a lot different. So this survey result will be, and the analysis will be a lot different than what it is now. So that is a limitation that we would like to advise caution in interpreting the data. And although we collected information on people's education, gender, and ethnic, and many other information from the respondents, but we did not conduct a gender analysis. The data exists, but that's one of the limitations, that we did not conduct a gender-based analysis of the survey to compare the result or the experience across genders. For future studies, we have some recommendations. The first recommendation is to empower the Afghan immigrant community for change. The second recommendations that we have are compare migration timelines to contrast experience of migrations over 20 years, as I just talked about, because it may be a lot different experience for people who came earlier, and if the number was also different. So we have a big number of immigrants and in the last 3 years, and also do a post-arrival survey to evaluate the experience and system observations after 1 year to 5 years. The resource utilization studies is our next recommendation, to evaluate the local services and resources. So this could be a great research point for future studies. And also the sample size that we have for this study is 197 individuals. We could increase that number to get a better result from such studies. And also, we know that Afghans, although they're one of the biggest immigrant groups in the world, but there are many other immigrant communities from other countries. If other studies can conduct similar studies of other immigrant groups, such as Iraqis, for example, or Ukrainians and Somalians, that will provide a better picture of the immigration issues, and it will be interesting to do a comparative analysis of the experiences and the differences between experiences of these different immigrant groups. And what we recommend for other studies is that they adopt the methodology that we used in this study to include the locals, to include the people who have this experience and come from the community, so we get both sides of the story, not only from the people who are hosts and just academicians or researchers, but also the people who have a lived experience or live in the community. That methodology, I think, will enrich the research and make a better impact. The summary of key findings from our study is that it provides valuable insight. Exploratory survey sheds light on experiences of Afghan immigrants in Washington state. And we found that in this study, we found that majority of the respondents, so survey respondents, were they fled Afghanistan after the fall of Kabul in August of 2021. And the immigration channels or how they entered the United States was mostly the SIVs, or special immigration visas, and also parolees. Paroled immigrants were mostly in 2021, but the SIVs were before that as well. English proficiency of the immigrants, they are proficient in multiple languages. This survey found that 43% of the respondents are proficient in English, and only 10% of them learned English after arriving in the US. Other languages they speak, obviously, is Pashto, Dari, and also Urdu or Hindi. One finding that we had in the survey, we have more details in the paper that will be posted online, about the skills match for the job that they do in the US. This, I think, is one of the very important points that I myself have a personal experience of it. That majority of people who come with skills and education, it's not always the case that they find a job that matches their skills. And this survey also asked this question from respondents. 64% of them say that their current job in the US does not match their skills and experience. About the public assistance services, despite the challenges that people faced in housing, especially when they first arrived, understandably, because there are just too many people, they overwhelm the resettlement capacity. But overall, the respondents had a positive outlook to their resettlement, and there are not many complaints about health services, education, employment. And employment, I put a note here that we should not see it as a contradiction, that the job mismatch and employment are two different questions that we ask. Employment meaning that they found a job, they have an income to support their family. Although many, like a great percent of the people do not find their job matching their skills and background. As I said in the introduction, that integration was the main motive or the biggest question that we wanted to have in this survey. We did an analysis of integration based on different levels of education. We found that higher education level have a positive correlation with integration, participation, and social networking. That was one of the key findings that aligns with other researchers in the literature. The contributions we make through this study is that we have a very rich data, which will be publicly available. And the Afghan immigrants are somewhat unexplored community groups. We hope to bring them to light and encourage or facilitate further studies of these immigrant communities, and also contribute to the existing literature on immigration and integration. And I end the contribution section with the peer policy recommendations. Policy Research Institute aims to enhance academic discourse, create literature, and recommend policies through such studies for a better tomorrow, especially most. And with that, I end my section of the presentation and hand it back over to James. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I hope everyone will join me in giving a virtual round of applause to our researchers. I also just want to say I see a lot of YouTube students and researchers in the audience and folks I know. This is an incredibly rich data set, and we're going to publish it, as we said a couple times, under Creative Commons license on our website. I know that we at PR are doing a couple comparative analyses of our own, and there are so many incredible possibilities if you want to dig into these data sets to see what insights you could build in your programs. So that is very exciting. We have about 12 minutes, and so I would invite everybody. I think it's a small enough group that we can just have folks unmute themselves and just ask questions of our researchers. So I will invite you to do that. I certainly have a question, but I will wait. Yes, Ahmad.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. It was a great research, and congratulations to the Pursesh and also to the research team. My name is Ahmad, and I'm also a PhD researcher working on migration in Germany. And I actually have maybe one or two questions based on the finding of this paper. In the literature review, it's stated that the majority of Afghans in the United States lack education, but in your findings, for example, it says that over 50% of the participants have university degree, and also around 30% have school certificates. Could you explain the difference? It's based on your network, or we assume that now Afghan refugees in the United States have higher education, for example, compared to previous studies? And I was also maybe asking about the mismatch of the education and job about for the participant, but at the end they touched on it. But I have a question that 64% of the respondents said that there's a mismatch between education level and the job they have, but the majority of the respondents speak English, they have education degrees, and also they have experience. I would like to the reasons behind this. Thank you so much.
All right, so I'm going to respond to your last question first about the mismatch with employment and their skills. We had this question on the survey. We asked it 2-3 different ways to see how they do economically and how are they satisfied with their employment and how best their skills are used. Most of the people, I put a small note there that they have jobs, they have employment and income, so they are happy with having some sort of income. But when we ask this question further, are you satisfied with your current job? Are you looking forward to change your job or get some training, go back to school? Or do you think that based on your background or the level of education and experience that you have, do you have a job that is a good match to your skills? So, and their response was not exactly the same. it might seem contradicting, but it's not. The one question is about their employment. There's like a great majority of people have jobs and they're happy with the income, but they look forward to changing their job, some of them. And that's when you get the satisfaction question. Are you satisfied with your employment? And is it a good match to your skills and background? And there you see that there's a big number of people who stated that they are not happy with their current job, and 64% of them thought that their current job in the U.S. does not match the skills that they have or experience. And even on a follow-up question with this group of people, I asked them, or the survey asked the respondents, are you planning to go back to school or get certificate or evaluate your credentials? And we have that's why referring to the data that will be available online will provide much deeper insight to those questions. The remaining 36% or 34% who responded satisfied with their jobs are the ones who had skills, jobs matching their skills. I hope that answers your first question. Was the other question also addressed to me, or do you want someone else to respond to?
Everyone from the team can respond to my questions. Thank you.
Okay, I have this slide, I hope you see it, about the level of education. It has a small text. I hope you are able to see it, to read it. We divided the education level. You can see that we have people with no formal education or some religious studies. Some of them have religious studies, for example. It's 43 people in total. And the next group of, or the next level of education is high school. We have 56 people. And in technical, or 12 or 14 years of education, technical, honors, and vocational degrees, 15 people out of 197. I also give it in percentage wise. And we have people with a bachelor's degree. 66 people out of 197 say that they have a bachelor's degree, and 17 with a master's or PhD or tertiary education. This is the response we got on the level of education. Do you have data on Afghan immigrants or studies in Afghan immigrants in Germany? I wonder how it compares. That would be interesting to see. And I hope that this answered your question.
I will also note that the slides are going to be shared on our website along with research in the data set if you want sort of a more condensed look at some of the data. And then I will take it on to Snorri.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the great presentation. I have two questions. My questions are not really related to the study itself, but it's more like about the data collection that you did. One of my questions is that if you had any questionnaire for the household as well, or it was only the individual questionnaire. It was my first question. And the second question is about, you mentioned that you have some contact number of the people who responded. Are you planning to contact them in future to make this data updated for the sake of like making a panel data set, or how it's gonna work? Thank you.
Okay, it will be me responding to any survey questions because I was involved with the design and the data collection. Your first question about if was it individuals or household? We had a relatively long debate to use the term 197 household or 197 individuals, because the reason for that is we submitted this this questionnaire out to people, their phone numbers, email addresses that we had, or when we saw them in person in grocery stores or the Afghan bakeries, for example, or in their mosques and other public events such as Eid, for example. So we had this QR code that linked the questionnaire, so they could quickly access it. And majority of the responses we got from was from male head of the household. And we saw that there is a disparity. There are not many female in the questionnaire or in the data. So we changed that. We hired female surveyors to go out, and so that it makes it more comfortable for people to talk to them, and also to have a better representation of the female population. And there is only one restriction about who could write this. That is, persons should be adult. And in one family, there is either head of household. Mostly the responses that we got were just male head of the household. And some we have female or the wives or daughters who are 18 and above also participated. So it is not exactly household or individuals. And in some cases, it's only one individual from one household who responded. But in some other cases, we have 2 people or 3 people responding from the same household. And there isn't really a way to tell how many are individuals or how many are just one person from one household. And your other question, a follow-up study for the no contact information that we have. We are hoping that we could do future studies, similar studies, maybe not exactly with the same group of people, but I think that that was also part of our recommendations for future studies that maybe other researchers could take on and conduct similar studies of the same group. Maybe we have contact information, we have the data from this round, and doing another similar study in a few years, for example, and see how much their experience have changed and do a comparative analysis. So that is our hope. We don't have a plan set or a team dedicated to do that, but we hope that that happens in the future. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Javed, we also had a very related question in the chat that you can maybe quickly touch on, which was, did the participants find that a 30-minute survey was overwhelming? Did we have, people falling off, like starting it and not finishing it?
Yes, I think the small turnout or response that we got from the community, we reached out to many more people, like maybe hundreds more people, and we got only 200, or on average out 100. And part of the reason that we thought is because it's just too big for people. They 30 minutes, there are 47 questions. They do this one page and then just they don't continue or give up. It's really hard to verify if that was the case, but yes, the question took a relatively long time. For some people who are quick, it is really 15 minutes. It's not that 30 minutes, but people use their phones. Some people are not very used to online forums or Google Doc, and they kind of struggle, and it takes longer time. So yeah, that could be a factor in, that there's too many questions and too long, but we needed those for a big data set. Some sacrifice and some opportunity got there.
And I totally understand if people have to jump off. I can stay, and I think a couple of us can stay a little on, but I will kick it to Tamara for the next question.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Thank you for all of this amazing information. This is such a great report on all of the important aspects of people resettling and what their lives look like at that time and after. One of my questions that had to do with what we were just talking about. Were participants incentivized in any way for completing the survey? Was that part of the process?
Oh, you're going to have to unmute, Javed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tamara, for the question about incentives. Initially, we did not have any incentives for the respondents, but later we found that the number that we were hoping to reach, a minimum 200 individuals or households, we struggled to get that number of responses. And one was that we changed our strategy. We changed a little bit the requirements of the data and to get a bigger number. So what we did was we hired female surveyors to increase the female participation, and also provide about 15 to 20 dollars per survey. And that is not for the whole 200 survey respondents. It was in a later stage when we wanted to have more participants. And I think it was 130, 140 participants that we already had until that time. And then we provided 15 to $20 per survey respondents to about 50 or 60 more individuals.
Thank you. My second question is related to if there's any, because it sounds like you can stratify so many different topics to come out of the areas of data that you've collected. Was there any thought of kind of retrospectively looking at data that's been collected by government agencies to compare to what you found in terms of if that's being collected by different government departments in Washington who are looking at some immigrant and refugee resettlement?
We contacted the SHS, and also we had a discussion with a representative. They were very interested in the data and the findings. It was early on before we actually finished the research. They showed interest, but we will see if after this data is published or the research is published, and see if they will be interested, and see if they want to fund future such projects. I may ask Sanjan if you have any response in this regard. I think you contacted some agencies as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tamara. I really appreciate you attending this event and everybody in the room. On the data set, yes, we reached out to the DSHS and also the King County. I guess, like, I had some context. I reached out to them asking for data set before kicking off the survey and the actual data collection. It was, I think we were at the design phase when I reached out to them. They did not have any kind of really compiled data set on Afghans, kind of covering different areas that we intended to cover on this survey. And I think it's still lacking. Like, we don't have really a systematic one data set of, comparing or including all these, let's say, 6 aspects that we're covering in the survey. Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to mention. I think it's the time that we as people, as partners with the community, start really generating this community-driven, or let's say the respondents' community-generated data sets. That would be another kind of really additional value to the research, because most of the research produced are not really community-generated. Local partners like PR and NASHI, which Tamara is coming from, we could, do this. We could do our part with the research and generate some of this data. And PR is going to involve and to get engaged in more, or let's say, broader studies beyond Afghan communities, like in the King County and Seattle area. Thank you.
And for everyone else present, that was Hassan, who is our fearless leader, the president of PR. So just for context for everyone. Do we have any other questions, like very short ones? I know we're a little over time. If people have to pop off, we completely understand, and thank you so much for your time. But yes, Ali?
Hey everyone, thank you so much for this amazing work. I really enjoyed this presentation. So very, very necessary to be done more this kind of research. So we really need be done more of this kind of research. So my question is, why most of the participants are males? And as Dr. Javed also mentioned that most of them are one male from a household, from each household. Not every single, and just like most of them. So why did you find it challenging? Why it was challenging for you to find more female participants? Was it because they are uneducated and they didn't know how to answer the question, or they did not have access to the online research, like the questions that you have designed, or there was more barriers or many different barriers that prevented them from participating or to answering to your questions? And that is one question. And another question what I would like to be answered is why the majority of the participants are from one ethnic group. So is it just one ethnic group because they had more participants, like more people, you reached out to them and they responded to your questions, or it was just you reached out equally to all the ethnic groups, but the other ethnic groups, they did not participated as much. They participated like that one specific that currently the majority of the participants in your current research. So these are the two questions I have. Thank you.
And right
right.
before you respond, I'm just going to say we have a couple of our researchers that have to go to different meetings, but I just wanted to say a final thank you so much for the incredible work that everyone has done. And I'm so excited to see this all published, but I will let Dr. Javed and possibly others finish the question. But thank you so much to our wonderful team here at PR and everyone who's joined us.
All right. Thank you very much. Your first question about the high male participation as compared to female. The contact information that we had was initially from mostly the main head of household. That's how they, we find them in resettlement agencies, in the mosque. Mosque is almost 100% men in most of the time. And also the grocery stores, although grocery stores, we get a mixed population or mixed genders there. But the result that we got was mostly from men. And to have a fair and a balanced representation of the community, have more female in the group, we changed our strategy. And one of the points that you mentioned about the level of education, maybe it's lower among female population, and that I think that is true. In Afghanistan, there might be a lower level of education, and especially literacy. Digital literacy. It might be lower among female population in the Afghan community. So that could be a factor. We have the data. We can definitely go check and do analysis of why there is fewer female participants in the survey, and we can run and see what the data shows us that exists there. So we don't have all the detailed analysis based on gender, for example, or any other. We just did a quick analysis based on education, that you have the result, and we said it in section 7. But for female, I think maybe lower literacy rate, and that the head of household is traditionally and culturally mostly men in the Afghan community. and also that it is mostly men who are out in the public that we could go and reach and give the survey questionnaires to them to have their responses. If you ask what did you do to mitigate this shortcoming, we hired female volunteers to help us and go and reach more women. And also we noticed that some female participants, when we asked them to fill the survey, they said we don't have email address. And then we had this requirement that someone who fills out the survey must have an email address. So we removed that requirement. We changed it to a phone number, just something that we could use as an identifier. And so that helped us with the number. The number increased from very low numbers, I think 15 or 10%, to 30 plus that we have now, 37, I think. And so that's what happened with the male and female participation. And with the ethnicity, that's also an excellent question. I stated that as limitations to our study, that because I belong to the Hazara community, and maybe that my personal network and also the people that I know, the most people that we sent the survey form to were mostly Hazaras. But that does not mean that we did not reach out to other communities. We had, I think we put more effort, a lot more effort, and also money to reach out to other communities. We expanded the team to more surveyors. We spend more time, more resources, and more team members to reach out to other communities as the Hazara community, but the turnout or the response was not as many. And it is an important question to see why we have a bigger number of the Hazara participants as compared to, for example, other communities. So, but that's what happened during the survey. I hope that answers your questions. Thank you, Shef.
All right, and just to be respectful of everyone's time, I think we are going to end it there since people have to go off and go to class and things like that. But thank you so incredibly much for everyone that joined us. This is a wonderful data set, some great research. Again, we're publishing tomorrow at 9 a.m. We have a shorter analysis going up later today, and then we will have some other comparative analyses publishing on this work, and we're looking forward to doing similar projects with other communities here in Washington. So thank you very, very much, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.